Hollywood just got hit with an uppercut by its two biggest weaknesses, YouTube and video game adaptations. And Kane Parsons, a YouTuber turned director, just turned the video game The Backrooms into A24's biggest movie ever. Tinseltown has always struggled with video game adaptations. Instead of sticking to source material, they tried desperately to make their own original story, sometimes without even including characters from the game that made it popular in the first place. Prime example of that would be the characters from the Assassin's Creed movie, a film that a lot of people probably forgot about, which attempted an original story and completely butchered it, while also not including any characters from the game. Or the countless Resident Evil adaptations, which always somehow manage to miss the mark and can't stick the landing. Or the multiple attempts to try and start a Hitman franchise. Or like that time we got that weird live-action Mario movie we just try to erase from our minds. And what about the countless times they try to get Lara Croft to work as well? Or thinking that this is how Sonic should look in his first live-action movie debut. The point is, Hollywood has struggled for years when it comes to video game adaptations. But that all just changed because they finally realized that they needed the help from their biggest competitors to do it right. YouTube and YouTubers have been dominating the internet world for years now, and are also starting to break through into Hollywood on a professional level, and bridge the gap between the platforms. Markiplier, for example, did it with Iron Lung and his own money. But now, A24, who's been a rising powerhouse making some very good lower budget films like A Good Time, Uncut Gems, and Warfare, which are just good quality movies that are contributing to quickly growing the major media studio. And now they just took the biggest chance of all on a 20-year-old YouTuber to make their biggest film yet. The Backrooms, which started as a creepypasta on a 4chan's X board in 2019, of what was from an old photo of a furniture store that was being remodeled back in 2002, which had those washed out, sickly colored, mucus yellow painted walls with strips of LED lights dimly lighting dark corridors and hallways. This image sent the internet into a massive world-building frenzy, coming up with stories and making up lore and popularizing a term called liminal space horror, which revolves around transitional or in-between spaces, empty corridors and hallways that are deeply unsettling when vacant. Mixing the familiarity of everyday spaces, this becomes a huge topic inspiring lore-dedicated Wikipedia pages. People making TikToks, short films, and expanding the universe, causing almost anything about it to go viral at the time, and causing indie game developers to make their own adaptations like The Backrooms, or the one that I'm most familiar with, Escape the Backrooms. Released in August 2022 with Steam Early Access, I would say this is the most polished version compared to the other attempted games. Escape the Backrooms is a 4-player co-op horror exploration game, with over 30 eerie backrooms levels you could traverse while avoiding entities and other dangers. It was a game me and all my friends played on Steam together, a game I'll admit that I didn't play too much alone because the co-op aspect was so much fun, and I'm a little bit of a chicken when it comes to solo horror games, sparking all kinds of TikToks, YouTube theory videos, and the biggest and most popular piece of media to come, a short film about the topic titled The Backrooms, found footage. That's where Kane Parsons comes into play. The video has accumulated over 80 million views in 4 years and inspired a continuous series of videos adding to the lore, creating theories and expanding the world and the overall concept. The Backrooms expanded universe is what we could call it. So that brings us to how did he become involved with A24 and making this a full-length feature film for the silver screen? Well, Parsons was 16 years old at the time when he made the viral video. He had almost immediately received a slew of studio interest about the concept after it went viral overnight almost, which made him paranoid and cautious because he had no contact with the industry at that point. And his contribution to developing a feature-length project would cause him to have to miss a lot of school. And while still living with his mother at the time and graduation nearing, and like most other teenagers his age, he's fully expected to go to college, which for him was specifically film school. But Hollywood's continuous interest in the Backrooms intensified. He operated as if at the snap of a finger, all of the work he had been putting in to help develop the project could disappear at any moment. But Parsons pitched A24 the film project the same week he had his college applications due. So what was once a project that made him feel cautious and skeptical that he initially did for fun just to create something, now became his future, and 3 years later, at 19 years old, Parsons signed a deal with A24 to become the youngest director in the studio's history, opening his world to endless Hollywood resources he didn't have, to help him bring this project to the big screen. Using the help of well-known horror movie director James Wan and Stranger Things producer Sean Levy, we got A24's Backrooms, which follows Clark, a furniture store owner who is a failed architect and a depressed alcoholic, that encounters a series of mysterious electrical issues with his store and finds what seems to be a hidden passage that he eventually walks through, which brings him into the backrooms. And now curious and confused of where he is, Clark decides to explore the area to see what he can discover, finding things that don't make any sense and can't be explained in a logical way. Stacks of furniture stuck in between each other with hidden passages and oddly shaped rooms and tunnels, old belongings that were left behind by previous explorers maybe, but while also encountering strange sounds and having a feeling that he's being followed, which makes him run deeper into the back rooms, but he manages to find his way back to the entrance and out to his furniture store. This unsettling experience causes him to spiral and have a manic episode, so he goes to see his therapist, someone who he can trust and help him understand what he saw. He explains to her that it's these endless rooms that go on and on with no purpose, objects all over the place, stacked oddly, sounds and old belongings remaining. She doesn't believe him at first. She just thinks he hasn't been sleeping and he's been binge drinking, sending himself into an unhealthy spiral causing a mental decline. But he's very adamant about what he saw, so he intends to go back and map out the area and bring her evidence so she will believe him. So that's exactly what he does. He spends days in the back rooms, mapping out what he can to take back to her. He returns to her and she's still very hesitant, so he becomes determined that this time he'll get video proof of it. So he shows up to his employee's apartment and tells them that he'll pay them extra money if they help him do some research. And it's during this sequence in the back rooms when they find a new passageway in a tunnel that leads down to an unexplored area, which Clark then ties his employee's boyfriend to a bed frame to lower him down, where he discovers a new set of rooms covered with dirty laundry, and with the room and the walls flipped all over the place, doors in the wrong spot, lights flickering, including a foul odor coming from the area and something creeping in the darkness. And that's when an unseen monster gets a hold of him and pulls him back down while he's trying to climb out of the tunnel, dragging the bed frame they tied him to down the tunnel, causing them both to get pulled along with him. Clark seemingly meets his end as well while trying to help his employee. Then we cut back to the therapist. She's weary. She hasn't heard from Clark in days. He's not showing up to his appointments. But she sees the map that he left with her, so she decides she's going to go to the store and try and find him herself. She discovered the building hasn't been open for days. She's able to sneak herself in and only sees the flickering lights coming from the downstairs area of the furniture store. She heads down the steps and sees all kinds of objects laying all over the place. Wind chimes, chairs, stools, lamps, and a giant whiteboard with what looks like a map drawn all over it. The same map that she recognizes from her office, the one that Clark left her a couple days before. So she's determined to see what he's talking about. And when trying to figure out how to find him, she makes the same mistake he did by entering the back rooms, except this time, not having a way to get out. She then somehow finds him. He's clearly not himself. Something's happened to him, and later we find out that he's being controlled by the main monster, which is a funny-looking giant pirate. It's what he looked like in his infomercial earlier in the film. And she's able to get away with the company that is trying to map out the back rooms, but in the end, she ends up becoming one with the back rooms. And that's a quick summary of the entire movie. The story is probably the weakest thing about it, but the acting is really, really good. The film has great set design and cinematography. It ends open-ended, and it shows you a company called Async that's trying to figure out what's causing the back rooms to try and understand better what they are. It takes a bit to build this all up because it has to spend a lot of the movie world building because there aren't a lot of people that are familiar with the games and also aren't familiar with this topic. They took what Kane had made in his short films and tried to expand on it for a feature-length film. I mean, he was making 10-minute videos on YouTube, so for them to be able to expand this universe as much as they did is very tippable. He did really, really well with the concept, especially having all that pressure put on him. And this is, I would say, one of the best video game adaptations we have ever gotten. Not only does it respect the concept of the games even more, it introduces this world to a whole new audience, and it shows that young filmmakers should be taken seriously, and that once again, horror is dominating the box office. It isn't Star Wars streaming shows turned attempted blockbusters losing hundreds of millions of dollars. It isn't a sequel from an established IP writing off what worked for years. It's something new, and it's something that's original. It's the beginning of a new era in Hollywood, and A24 is taking the first steps to maybe saving Tinseltown, which is by taking young directors and aspiring talents with ambitious mindsets and branching into other demographics, and taking YouTube, a platform that everybody knows about and consumes, if not daily, on a weekly basis, and using it as an asset, and combining that with video games, which are a whole other outlet for original stories, and potential success if done correctly. But that's how a small video game and a young kid from California turned a picture of a furniture store from the early 2000s into a mega blockbuster, and the biggest opening weekend that A24 has ever had. But what did you think of the Backrooms? Did you play the game? Do you want to see more? Or is this one-off movie enough for you? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.